monthly meeting of Park and Recreation. We'll first start with roll call. 7:30. George Pennington,
Francesca Sigala,
Tom Kunkel,
Lindsay Heron, Sue Leoni.
Gene Goodman.
I agree.
And I know Gene Goodman is here. And Steve, you're on.
Jean's ready.
Oh, Gene, I'm sorry, Steve Haberstroh.
I'm here.
Yeah, Zoom.
Yep.
Oh, okay,
Steve,
good.
Steve, are you there? Good. It's Steve. Okay, next order of business is to approve the minutes from the June 14th meeting. Are there any additions or corrections? No. Is there a motion to approve? Keith, motion, Francesca, second, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carries, thank you. Okay, Lapham Community Center, Agatha, you have a floor for a proposal for extended weekday hours on one Saturday per month from Ben.
Right. Hi, I'm Aggie, the director of Lapham Center. We have, through the state of Connecticut Aging and Disability Services ARPA grant, that is supposed to combat the negative effects of COVID. Lapham has $46,324 funding available to us for the grant proposal, and part of the grant proposal is asking for permission from our commission. So the proposal is to extend the hours of the center Tuesday through Thursday from 8:30 to 4, from 8:30 to 4:30 to 8:30 to 7:30, and maybe 1 or 2 Saturday programs a month. For 8 months of the calendar year. So this will give us a good test to see if this is a viable program to maybe go before the town and get more money if this works. And we'll only do it if we get the money from the state grant. The changing habits of the seniors since COVID is that they like to get up later and come in later and stay a little bit longer. So we want to increase their socialization and stay open a little bit longer. So we're kicking them out at 4 o'clock and 4:30. And when we stay open from 4 to 6:30, like we've tested this summer, it really seems to be working for them. They don't want to come here at 8:30 in the morning. I can't get them here at 8:30 in the morning. So the proposal request includes promotional expenses, programming funding, and payroll to cover the extended hours. And so to be included into the proposal, they want permission from our commission.
Gotcha.
So
Right.
that's why I've come before you.
Appreciate that. Are there any questions? Steve?
So what programs, I'm a regular user here. What programs are you thinking of putting in between?
One of the
4:30 and
programs
7:30?
to combat the negative effects of COVID, we would add a health and wellness program in the evening free of charge. So it would be like a 4:30 to 6:30 kind of programming, and it would be wellness. We do long COVID programs. We'd be doing, I have already talked to a nurse and she's working on a plan to do different kind of programming. But once the building is open, I can also do an exercise class, a caregiver support group, all those kind of programs that we normally do. We just extend it out a little more.
Would it also be available for, the men's club, cinema club here, book club here, and other club meetings?
Yeah,
here?
book
Would it be
club, if they
available
want to
for
meet, if
us?
we're here, they can meet in the building. So those hours would extend Lapham's hours as well for the community. So if there's a newcomers club that want to meet here from 5 to 7, that would be fine, because we'll have coverage at the center.
One more question.
Yeah.
Would the kitchen be available if we wanted to have like a dinner, like we have a lunch from time to time that we make in the kitchen?
So I mean,
Or cooking stuff.
no more. Lobster and lobster for 4 days, so maybe not lobster. But yeah, no, we would, within the hours we're open on those Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays. Yeah, we could do it. We could use the dining room in the kitchen. Yeah, so we could do some dinner things. We've been doing dinner Wednesday night on the patio, and then they go over to the concert after. It's 5 to 7 on the patio, and then our group, 14, 20 of them, go over to the concert all together.
Okay.
So they seem to really like it. And it's kind of a younger senior that has been coming to these kind of programs. And those guys, we're grabbing them before they can still do this, and then they can stay for the other programs, when we're here during the day.
Right.
Yeah.
Any concerns about when the sports season begins with the parking or the turf field, or
No, because the park, they park all out there.
Right.
And I wouldn't do a big one. I wouldn't do a program, and I wouldn't fill up the whole building. I
Okay.
wouldn't do 200 people like we do during the day. We would just do 1 or 2 specific things or 3 or 4 smaller things. It wouldn't be big.
Gotcha.
So I think we have enough, we have definitely have enough parking out
All
there.
right, perfect.
Yeah.
Hank, you had a question?
Yes, Aggie, if this is successful and you're going to continue it,
Mhm.
do you have to come before the commission again, or is this?
Yeah, we would have to come before the commission, then it'd be part of the budget project. Yeah, right. That would be for, this will cover for 2 years. So it would give us a good test subject, to try it out and see if it's, viable.
Does this affect our budget?
No, this would be just all this would be in a special appropriation to the town, and it would just come out of that for these programs. So it doesn't take any away from what we already do.
It's a state grant.
It's a state grant. The state of Connecticut got $10 million for senior centers. So, and they doled it out by demographics and age and all sorts of things. And some towns got a couple 100,000 and we got 46,000.
One more question, Aggie. If we didn't do this with this money,
Mhm.
what would happen?
Well, they would it would stay in the big fund. It would stay in the big fund. If they
You mean
deny the
they would
proposal,
have
we
it,
could do it. We have 2 years to get this. So if this proposal doesn't get approved, which we've already talked to them, I think we're okay. But if the proposal doesn't get approved, we'd go after another proposal. We could do a facility improvement, like we could put an awning on the building, or we could do something. They don't want to replace carpet. They don't want to do stuff like that, but they want to do something to benefit the residents and the seniors in the town. So,
But to answer your question, the town doesn't get the money and get to choose. It
No.
has to go for the senior center.
right, it has to go for the senior center, and it has to go with this approval, with this proposal, it'll only go for this project. We can't use it for anything else. We won't get the full chunk of money. We would get the full chunk of money, but it has to be used for this, and then we'd have to report back what we used it for. What hours, what programs, what promotional stuff, yeah.
Are there any other questions? Is there a motion to approve?
I'll certainly move.
Keith, motion, Sue, second. All those in favor?
Just get, Jake, can you answer?
Oh, sorry.
Yep, I approve.
Okay.
Okay.
So you're-
Steve, you have a question?
No, he's approving.
You just approved.
Just approved, okay.
I
Opposed? So carries. Thank you very much. I think this is a great idea, great program, and thank you for letting us use your building here
Absolutely.
once a month. We really appreciate it.
Eat some pizza.
Thank you so much. Good night. Okay, the next item on the
Good night.
agenda is.
Good night.
Is being, I spoke with Patricia this afternoon. This event right now is being tabled, okay? Due to some concerns over cost, it's being tabled. She'll come back to us, when in fact, if they want to move forward with this, okay? Next is, Tiger with the Waveney Playground update. Hi, Tiger.
How are you? Hold on one second. I'm trying to share my screen before we get into it here. Yeah. I figured since I was here, I'd give you kind of the grand tour of everything we've been doing for the past year, I guess. Kind of tell you where we've been and what we've been trying to accomplish in the parks in general, and then we can talk about the playground in specific. So first off, thank you very much for having me. I don't know if you've been able to go to Mead Park lately, but we started working on the patio. I was just there about half an hour ago. Courts were full, actually over full, I should say, because people were just standing on the sidelines waiting to play, which was great. And every single person there liked what was happening on the patio. So to give you an idea, the Bluestone patio is coming in nicely. He's got another couple of weeks to finish, and then at that point in time, we'll be looking at redoing the landscaping to the side towards the pond side. We're hoping that some of the landscaping there will help deaden some of the sound as well. We're not getting any complaints from the residents that are behind us that are stay off of Sunrise, but there has been some concern going across into the park itself. So I think that'll beautify it nicely and with the plan itself, these two red areas are where we're gonna add some additional benches. We actually extended the patio through these, this is a little bit of change. And then we'll put in some additional benches there. And then John and I were speaking about putting in some tables in case people from the lodge want to carry lunch or, up top. Because the lodge gets quite busy and we're running out of patio space. We extended the patio a little bit last year. The next area to actually do work would be around the tree, around that large tree, and that's actually kind of problematic as far as how to make that work and make it accessible. The other portion that we have is in the upper corner for the parking lot. We're in the process of surveying the entire park, all of the amenities in the park to give us an idea of exactly what we have. We have different parcelized areas throughout the park. We have no cohesive study or survey. Once we have that, then we can formalize this plan and then institute it as far as paving it, grading it, paving it, making it accessible, and then formalizing the parking. I think we'll be able to expand the parking a little bit. And then help that entrance and exit drive coming in off of the road itself. We are looking at the exit drive of Mead as well, as far as a way to possibly maximize the parking there. We've got an area where next to the further courts, the farthest courts to the north, where it pulls off, where there's a nice staircase. That's kind of used by some people who parallel park through there, but it's not necessarily engineered to fit, maximize parking. So we have a consultant taking a look at that as well. So we're looking at various areas in the park to try to maximize the parking, by not expanding any of the pavement areas, but necessarily just making them a little bit, try to maximize the usage of the space. The parking on the top near the tennis courts is a little haphazard. So if we formalize it, I think we can do a lot better. So that kind of gives you an idea of what we are there. If you take a look over at the service area, Waveney, this is not where they are now. They're much further along at this point in time. With the wall installation, so we can stick the dumpster behind it and get the dumpster out from the middle there where the bride coming down the staircase doesn't, as she walks to the rose garden or walks to the fountain, she doesn't have to look at and stare at a dumpster. So this is moving along quite well. The upper corner shows the overall plan. So these are the walls that we're doing in question right now. And then this entire patio area will be installed with a staircase that leads down to the powerhouse and the carriage barn itself. But this whole patio area will be installed once he's done with the wall area and we move the dumpster behind to this pad in the back. So that kind of tells you where we are on that project. That's got probably at least another month to go on that. This is a floor plan of the potting shed, actually the annex bathrooms, not the potting shed itself. So if you look in the upper corner here, this is the powerhouse itself where they store all their costumes and their props, and then we'll be putting on an addition to it next to it. And that'll be adjacent to the parking lot. And the thought is that it'll be men's and women's bathrooms, both ADA compliant. And with that, we have a look at what the patio would be. So we have a consultant looking at the patio itself to try to then make the entire patio compliant, almost at one grade, and then determine the entrances and egress into the potting shed, depending upon how the Powerhouse Theater wants to utilize the potting shed. They have the use of it. The town council gave them the use of it, or additional lease space. And at that point in time, they'll determine whether they want it for a building, as far as office space, or for another theater, a black box theater. But the thought is that as you come in the parking lot, we're going to redo this entrance with a several set of stairs to come down to an open patio. This incorporates their thought of their expansion of their lobby. And then it incorporates any work that they might propose here in this area, as far as the grades are concerned. And then from the parking lot, we'd be putting in accessible spaces at the lower end of the parking lot, down by the garden and itself. And then from there, there's a ramp that leads straight down into the bathrooms. So everything at that point in time will be compliant. And then the patio should be all at one grade. And then all the walls that are there, we're going to look to make them seating walls. So if you're waiting to go to the bathroom, waiting for somebody to come out of the bathroom, or you just want to sit in the area, it'll be a nice space for you. And it should make it a nice cohesive design for the theater and the potting shed and the annex bathrooms all in one. So, once we get approval on this overall schematic plan, we're gonna go to bid for the for the bathrooms themselves, construct the bathrooms, and then we'll build the patio after. And the thought is that if at that point in time, the powerhouse is ready to go do their work, then we'll incorporate that as well. If not, we'll make sure that the bathrooms are accessible and everything's prepared for their work. That way they don't disturb some of our work and we don't get in the way of theirs. So right now, we're working through that as well. We are working similarly with the carriage barn. Met with the carriage barn and a landscape designer, the exact same thing, their exterior patio, to do some work on their exterior patio. As far as right now, we have a walkway leading into the carriage barn. But it is compliant, it's not necessarily the best surface, and then the stone around it is definitely not a compliant surface to walk on or to wheel on. So the thought is to then put in a much better patio there. They would like to put in some outdoor lighting and some speakers and things for some of their programming that spills out into the patio. But that'll be a proposal that'll come from the carriage barn themselves. They received a large grant to help with this process. Right now, we're just in the design phase. So I have nothing to show you other than to say this is what we're looking at. As far as the next one goes, if we jump over to the paddle hut, this is a rendition of we had a report that came in from the Department of Justice about accessibility issues in various aspects of the park and various aspects of town. One of which was that paddle courts were not accessible. So that's why that's that temporary ramp, that stainless steel ramp that's there now, because that made us instantaneously accessible, at least one court.
Two.
Good.
It opens
Well,
to two.
exactly, two, but yeah, so you're correct, sorry. But we felt one court was suffice. They would like us to see all the courts accessible. So John was able to get a quote from Riley Green Mountain Platform Tennis to then put in some additional doors between courts 3 and 4 to then be, and then a platform there so that there'll be, so if you come into the first court, you can walk to all of them or wheel to all of them, or at least access every single one at that point. They should be starting relatively soon, I think in August, since everything will be shut down at that point. And then at that point, the courts themselves will be all accessible. But when we were looking at it from a larger standpoint, we were looking at what to do with the area out in front of the courts, meaning that blacktop area, the grass area. It's kind of, there's not much to it. It was kind of, we put the courts in, had a little turnaround for the house, and it's really not, it's not the best use of the space. So the thought was to come forward with a patio itself that leads out from the paddle hut and is at grade with all the courts. So you can sit up on top and you can actually watch the courts being played. And the thought is to have outdoor seating, possibly fire pits that are propane lit, but that's a discussion for the commission at that point in time. And then at that point in time, they'll be ramping down to a newly formed parking lot, that paddle court lot, or that lot in between the pool and the paddle. As you can see here, and then in this rendition, it actually shows a 6th court. The brown court at the top of the screen shows a 6th court. With the thought being that paddle is very, very, everyone wants to play paddle. We've got 5 courts. Steve, at the time when he was alive, he was looking at a 6th court. John and I and Steve had been talking about it for years. We think at this point in time, it's a time to maybe think about bringing in that 6th court and then doing this in a holistic nature, bring the court in and then build the patio and then build the parking lot after that. Some of the concerns from the Department of Justice were exactly that, as far as accessibility from the parking lot. And we have several years to actually implement it, and we feel that the time is probably ripe for that. So once this plan is finalized, I'll have the consultant come back in and give a complete discussion to the commission as far as what we're looking at, and then we'll seek approval, and then at that point in time, put it into the budget and work it through the budget cycle for hopefully construction in July of next year. Other things that we've done at the paddle area is, like I said, we put in a temporary ramp. We had to take care of the drainage grates because they weren't suitable for people to transfer over. And then again, as I mentioned, we'll be putting in new doors between the courts and a new landing. So these are just a change in the drainage grates as far as from the right-hand side was the old grate, left-hand side is the new grate, so that you can't get a crutch or chair or a wheel stuck in it. And then we put in new railings at the paddle hut itself. Over time, they had been cut back due to damage, and we only had railings on one side. And the thought was that you need to have railings on both sides because you don't know exactly what the disability might be. You know, if you're missing an arm, you can walk up one side well, but when you want to come back, you don't have railing when you want to come back down again, if you think about it, right? So the thought is you need to have railings on both sides. So we had a Custom Ironworks, Steve Custom Ironworks come in and put this in. I think he's done a very nice job on it. Next is, this is an area at the top of the left, top right of the screen is actually the Mead Park parking lot in front of the lodge. Okay, so this is the walkway that leads from Mead Park to Bristow. I split it up into two slides only because the plan was too big. But the ball field is right here, down in the bottom corner. So the thought is that we have accessibility issues to get to that ball field. Okay, we have accessibility issues to get to both Mellick and Gamble. This one's a little bit more problematic than to get to the other, but the thought is that we needed a hard and stable service. Right now, we've got a surface that is accessible for the parks crews to drive on, but not necessarily the best for someone to walk on. So the thought is to then get something that will satisfy both and not necessarily be asphalt. So the thought is to go with something similar to a flexi pave, similar to what Irwin Park, the trails are made out of, only a little bit beefier, whereby traffic is better as far as heavier traffic for trucks and our trailers. So the thought is that we are looking to maintain the existing walkway, which is the walkway to the far left, which goes up to the upper edges of Bristow, and then install a new walkway that would travel along the side of the field and then access the lower trail at Bristow, because at that point in time, that trail would be accessible grade wise. And then if you access that trail, then you could go along that trail, which leads you along the water, which leads you to the pavilion in the center of the park. And then that could lead you to the pond. And all of that is basically the grades there are of an accessible nature and not too steep. The hillside trail is just that green link trail is just too steep coming up and down. So the overall thought is to do this and satisfy their concerns and then hopefully draw more people into Bristow from Mead Park. We are looking at a plan. It's at the state right now for a new sidewalk from Park Street down Old Stanford Road to Bristow with a pull off for a couple of parking spaces and an area for drop off. If we get kids to come on a school trip, the bus could come in and drop off, and that will all be accessible. And that route is accessible down to the pond and the patio down there. So at that point in time, we'd address the issues of getting people to that side of Bristow. We need to address the other side of Bristow. So this is 95% complete. You know, and the thought is that when it's fully complete, I can come back and say, okay, this is where we're at. There is money in the budget for it. I was able to get money in the budget for it this year, but we'll come back and say, okay, this is exactly what we're looking at, and this is how it's going to be, and then we'll give you a little bit of a better look, and then go to construct after that.
Can I ask a question?
Sure, you can stop me anytime.
Okay, the entrance from Mead Park into Bristow, is that gonna be enhanced?
That's what we're talking about. That was that walkway. So that backside walkway, that's the enhancement. So that will be a much nicer trail to come in. It'll be very similar to what is at Irwin.
And once you get in there, it's nice, but before you get in there.
Correct.
Walking from the parking lot to there, that's what's.
That's the exact problem that we have, that and there's no accessibility to the baseball field and the field itself and the bleachers and the other amenities that are there. And while we could make the accommodation and say, well, you can always play the other fields, necessarily that's very difficult to try to negotiate and navigate as far as you don't know who's going to come. If a spectator comes that's disabled, they should be able to come and watch their child or their grandchild or their friend or what have you play. So therefore, it's much better just to have both fields accessible. It's one of the reasons for this new pathway.
And you say there's money in the budget for this.
There's money in the budget. I have $150,000 in the park budget right now. Yeah, that we were able to secure from the town bodies. This is a picture of Waveney, the big parking lot in the middle. So you see now we're starting to actually stripe some of the lots. The reason for that is that when we met with the Department of Justice, it was difficult to quantify the number of parking spaces that we had to then determine exactly how many accessible spaces you have to have. So with each parking lot we went to, they said, well, how many spaces are here? And I would say, well, there's 36 spaces in here, and therefore you need 2 spaces. But without it being striped, it's very difficult to determine exactly how many spaces there are. And while for 20 years, I tried to not stripe anything, to be perfectly honest with you, I'm at the point now where I kind of have to. And given the fact that we redid the lot and then made it so that it would be perfect as far as maximizing the spaces, it was only in our best interest to do that at that point in time. So this is the rendition of what's out there in the field right now. I think it's working quite well. We did a similar look at Kiwanis as well, and this is what's striped at Kiwanis. We were able to maximize the spaces on the parking lot, on the pavement, I should say. And then John could, with his new painter, if he wants to stripe the others, he can do that as well. We have a range for that.
You mentioned the Justice, or the US Justice Department.
Yeah, the Department of Justice.
Why would they be interested in, where would that fall under their jurisdiction? Just out of curiosity.
Accessibility issues come into play for anything, any program that the town puts forward. So a program could be what Aggie runs here, right? That's a program. A program is also a playing field. A program is a sidewalk. A program is a parking lot. They're all determined to be a program. So all the programs in town have to be accessible, or there's an accommodation made. Where there can't be an accommodation, you actually have to make a correction. So that's, and we had received a complaint about, it originated at the track, the seating at the track. And there was I would say there was not a dispute, but a disagreement between us and the complainant about whether or not there was accessibility at the track. And in our opinion, there was, as far as accessible seating. We had accessible seating at the top of the track. And it's considered a area of assembly, but a small area of assembly. And a small area of assembly is 200 people or less would be sitting. And at that point in time, you only have to put seating in the middle quadrants, quadrant 2 and quadrant 3. So if you're looking at a field, 1, 2, 3, 4, in the middle quadrants, you have to put your spaces, and you only have to put them at one level, being the best viewing area. So we put them at the top because we felt that that was the best viewing area down below. That person disagreed, complained to the Department of Justice. The Department of Justice came down, and while they were here, they decided to look at everything else that we had, specifically throughout Waveney, Mead, and then in and around the town hall, because obviously that's the seat of government. So in that regard, they came back and they felt that we should put some additional seating at the bottom of the track, so we'll be doing that as well. But overall, we fared quite well. According to our consultant, we fared better than most, because we were on top of the majority of the situations, and some of them were just a disagreement, not necessarily a disagreement between us and the department, but a feeling that, well, you've done something, but can you do more? And we felt, yes, we can do more. So that's where we're at right now. We're still in negotiations with them, and we should be finishing negotiations within the next month or so. We'll have an idea of exactly what their report will be and what we need to accomplish. And to be quite honest, we've taken care of a lot of them so far. Every low hanging fruit we've already taken care of. Everything small, we've taken care of. Some of the larger ones, like the work, say for Mead Park, the one that we just talked about, that walkway, that's a larger project. The project at the paddle courts, that large patio, that's a larger project. Things of that nature that we have not tackled yet. There's acceptability between the town hall and Vine Cottage. We haven't tackled that. We have a design, we just haven't tackled that yet.
Gotcha.
You know, that kind of thing.
Thank you. I'm getting quite an education.
There you go. And then this is at the pool. We were able to maximize the spaces at the pool and come from 4 spaces to 5, all van accessible. So we revised that. And then moving forward, this year we were able to put in the lights for the tennis courts. I think they work really, really well. You know, John hasn't had any complaints. You know,
They haven't gone live yet.
well, okay, but the thought is that, and the best part is that there's no light spillover, and it came in under budget, right? So we actually have additional monies left over to see what we might want to do with something else there. The next one, I'll give a shout out to Bristow for the Conservation Commission. This is the pavilion at the center that it was just dedicated. This is while it was being constructed. It's absolutely beautiful. So you got to envision it's got wood shingles on it. And it's gorgeous. And I suggest anybody can take a walk down there, and see it. It's a nice little respite in the middle of the park. And then we were able to also redo the perambulation wall. The perambulation wall is the wall, well, Chris from here will tell you better, but this is one of the original walls that separated the townships. And we actually have a piece in New Canaan that's in Bristol. So we had Greg Falacci come down and use some of the Conservation Commission money to redo this stretch of the wall that's actually available, that was still there and present. He was able to redo this piece. And we'll be putting up some signage down there to like show exactly what it is, to tell people what a perambulation wall is and why it's so significant. But it used to be where the elders used to walk the wall and make sure that, you know, it's on your side, it's on your side. It mattered on who paid taxes into what district at that time. So it's actually a very big historical wall. It's kind of nice to have one in town. And then the last piece is, this is the Green Link Trail in town. And we are working right now, for any of you that drive up Ono Bridge, we're working on that piece of the sidewalk of the Green Link Trail. And with the one last crossing that we needed from the nature center to the sidewalk to then complete the trail itself. There are other pieces that we would like to do, say on Old Stamford Road and other areas, but this actually allows you to go from Waveney through Bristow and Mead, and then up to Irwin and the Nature Center and around, and do one continuous loop on either a trail or a sidewalk. And that last crossing, that one crosswalk was the last thing that was necessary. And we're building the sidewalk and putting in the ramps right now for that. So that's the reason for the slide, but I think it's kind of, it's a nice finish, so to speak, that we're almost complete with that. And then here we just did some minor work in here. This is the walkway I was talking about, where the bride comes down and she's looking straight across at the dumpster. So we took care of we're taking care of the dumpster. We took care of the tripping hazards. And right. And then the next one is things that we have planned or things that are being planned. This is right here at Lapham. This is the western parking lot. So what's sitting off to the side, as you come up the driveway off to the right, the plan in the upper left-hand corner was what it was originally, or what it was proposed to be originally. And it's nice and defined. This is what it is now from this aerial. And it's ill-defined, and we haven't been able to, we haven't paved it because we've been trying to figure out how to manage it and make it prettier. Let's put it that way.
I'm confused about what part you're talking.
This is the road from Waveney coming in.
Yeah.
Come around, then you come up the road here into Lapham,
Yes.
and then you walk in. So this is the western parking lot right
Oh,
here.
okay.
So it's the only piece that we haven't paved or redone. And
That's
right now it's under design to complete. We've there'll be a little bit of work that needs to be done for a gas line to the center itself. That should be done in the September timeframe. Once the pool is closed, because we have to come through the pool parking lot. And then we'll look to repave the pool parking lot, repave this lot, and utilize the new design, the rendition that's coming forward. I have Keith Simpson Associates working on it. He's doing a nice job. And the thought is to try to then increase the accessibility to walking through it, and then just quantify it better for use. It used to have a large tree in the center. Tree died. Now it's just an island sitting there by itself. And I think that it detracts from your entrance into Lapham. Lapham is absolutely gorgeous, and you're looking at this one piece that is not so. So we're working on that. And then this is the western parking lot from the house itself. So at the top of the screen is Waveney Road, and then the western lot comes in directly adjacent to the main lot itself, or the main loop. That was an aspect of the Department of Justice looked at that as well, as far as the grades of the parking lot and its condition. We felt that if we have to redo it, let's take a better look at it. And the parking lot itself, from what I understand, back when it was originally designed, was actually supposed to be twice the size, right? So you have what was made now, and then the other side was a mirror image. So it was actually supposed to be much larger. We're not proposing to do that, but that's why the design looks a little bit the way it does. And it looks a little funky, where you pull along the guide rail and you've got parking spaces on one side and you're kind of parallel parking on the other, and it looks a little bit wide. You can't understand why. That's because it necessarily was supposed to be twice as wide and parking on either side with aisles in the middle and then a circulation in the middle. But at the time, the town fathers decided they only wanted to do this portion and not the rest. So we're gonna stay with this amount of footprint, but we're gonna redo it to maximize it and make it a little bit prettier than what it is. And then satisfy the concerns that have been addressed as far as the condition of the walkway and the slopes of the walkway and things of that nature.
Tiger,
Yeah,
if you don't mind, just going back for a second to the Greenland Trail.
Yeah.
Is that totally wheelchair accessible now?
I wouldn't say it's totally wheelchair accessible, only because the places in Waveney are not, Waveney's not wheelchair accessible throughout. Right, so that I would say no, the majority of the others are, the nature center is not, so you couldn't necessarily, we can't say it's ADA compliant. We can just say we have a Green Link trail, it's the reason why it's a trail and not necessarily a Green Link sidewalk.
Some point would be asked to make that.
I don't believe so, no, because we have we have adequate trails that are accessible. You don't have to make every single trail accessible, but you have to be able to have some, right? You can't have zero, right? It's like parking spaces, right? Your first parking space has to be accessible, then you get 24 more. Then your next one has to be accessible, and you get another 24. That kind of thing. So exact same thing. Your first trail needs to be accessible. We have accessible trails at Irwin. We have accessible walking areas elsewhere throughout town. Some areas are just, we wouldn't be able to construct it to the necessary, to the required grade. Let's put it that way. There are slopes in Waveney that you just couldn't do without switchback all the way through, and you would ruin the aspect of it, and it would be cost prohibitive at that point. So the thought is that no, as long as we have some, we don't have to have all. Thank you. You're welcome. And then the only other thing I have of note is this parking area, not a parking area. At Mead Park, we're looking to try to do something. We put in crosswalks, trying to, make sure that people can get through. And 3 days after I put the crosswalk in, I got a guy parking on top of it. So we're gonna put some additional boulders out there. John and Todd and Ryan are gonna put in some irrigation in the island. Once they complete that, then we're gonna be able to redo the plantings and then put some additional boulders across it, and then ask the baseball folks not to park on it, and try to then make it so that it actually grows in it and it's pretty. But that's the last picture I have. The other things that we have are, we'll be repaving all the Waveney roads the week of the 17th. It's what's called a Cape seal, so it'll come in as a chip seal. And then a little bit later from that, it'll get a overlay of a micro thin overlay on the top of it, so you won't see the chip, you won't be driving on the chip, be driving on something that's very nice and smooth. So it's actually 3 applications. The chip goes down, and then 2 applications of the paving material on top of it. The chip you can drive on immediately. Paving, you gotta wait about 20 minutes for it to set. So we'll work through the traffic concerns at that point in time. And we'll try not to do it when there's anything of note. Try to stay away from a Friday for a wedding, things of that nature. But it'll be weather dependent. They start tomorrow. They've got 8 days worth of work, and this is slated for next week. And then depending upon how the weather goes, if it rains, we can't apply it. So it pushes it all by a day. Then we're looking at putting in a gas main to Lapham Center and possibly the pool and paddle. We've been talking to Eversource Gas for a long period of time about that. And that'll happen. We just asked them not to do it now during pool season. And then after the pool season, we'll look to put this route in to get it to Lapham so that we can hook up the CHP unit that's here, so that Lapham will be almost taken off the grid at that point in time. And then we'll be able to save some money on heating. And then if we can get access to the pool and some paddle, we'll do that as well, to take those and change those over to natural gas. And as I said, after that point in time, we'll look to pave the main pool lot sometime in October, November. We go to other areas in Waveney. We've got the Dunning Stadium improvements that are gonna start pretty soon. Capo Field itself is under design as far as what's gonna happen here at the Capo Field. As I mentioned, we'll be installing accessible seating at the high school, at the track. The bleachers at Water Tower Turf Field right now, the ramping for the bleachers, they need to be at a grade of 12%. They're just, I'm sorry, they're just below that. So they're at a 10% grade, 10.5 and 10.9. because of a little settlement. So you gotta bring those to 12. The bleacher company will come in and take care of that for us. And then we're looking at finalizing the phase 4 for Bristow and putting that out to bid and having everything done with Bristow this season in advance of its centennial celebration next year, next September. So the thought is to have all that work done and then just clean the park up next year before it starts. And then, like I said, we have some other accessibility issues in the parks. So that brings us to the playground. The playground, we haven't been able to launch yet. I apologize. We've been busy a little bit. We started and then when we weren't able to get that first meeting, that kind of killed the momentum, to be perfectly honest with you. John and I talked today. I talked to Kevin yesterday about it, and John and I talked today, and John's gonna assist in getting the committee up and running. And then once, because it's really just getting it up and running. If we can get it up and running, it's gonna take care of itself at that point in time. And then the committee can then determine the design and how we're gonna go forward. And at that point in time, it's an easy handoff for construction at that point in time. I'll be honest with you, for me, it's been hard just to get it up and moving, and then when other things come in and somebody's pounding on other things, I get the pounding, right? I get rid of the phone call first. So I apologize on that, but I think that, I think John can help get this thing up and rolling. And once we get it up and rolling, the committee will take care of the rest of it.
John spearheads this project, and then once they have the design construct, obviously you'd be brought into obviously for bids and.
That's right.
That be.
And we'll keep them informed.
All right.
throughout the
Yeah,
whole
I'll be at everything, I'll go to every meeting, but it's tough for me to organize all that.
Sure.
I
no,
go to the meeting
And
to
and I
do
do
it.
remember the long string of emails and
Yeah,
this date work, that didn't work. So
Yeah.
I have Francesca and Jake from this commissioner on the committee. Would there anybody else like to be on this committee?
Come on, Lindsay. Sure.
Or Lindsay? Okay, super.
yeah, we have
Welcome.
like one or two other individuals that were interested in it.
Correct. We have their names, I
Right,
believe.
it was
Yeah.
Monica
And, yeah, what I would suggest is, maybe set a meeting date, say, hey, whoever can make it great, whoever can't. Sorry,
I think we'll do a meeting out there so we can all wave our hands around what we envision right now and let people think about it.
right, exactly. And, unfortunately, sometimes doing things by committee makes it more challenging.
Could be.
So I would just suggest if you set the date, it's next Friday, it's next Friday.
Probably not gonna plan like ourselves. So
No.
the committee's better.
Yeah, exactly. No, but still, in case trying to govern by committee can be very tough with that type of thing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, the last one went pretty well. When we did meet, it went pretty well
okay.
overall. I mean, there was a couple of disagreements, but overall, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll serve ex officio, of course, but, so, whenever you guys want to meet, and John, if you want to set the meeting based on what's a bit convenient for you. Great,
Do it.
we'll follow your lead.
Sounds good.
Cool.
so I don't know if you have any.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I was just asking, in terms of budget, because I don't know if it's accounted for, but because of that, do you have any sense of like what the minimum completion timeframe would be, like how long you definitely won't be able to get it done? The playground.
The playground
Yeah.
itself?
Yeah.
So you're asking from like design finish to,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if anything is allocated towards it and.
we have
Next year's budget.
$455,000 allocated towards the playground and the fitness area next to it. That money is bonded and is set, meaning that we're not at risk of losing it for any portion of time. If it's sat for too long, the Board of Finance would actually, would obviously ask us a question as to how long it's been out for a year. So it's a question of that. Right now, we're still fine. If it was 5 years, 6 years out, at that point in time, they ask, okay, are you done with the project? Are you doing the project? We're not in jeopardy of that. So the moment that the committee comes forward and we finish the design, then at that point in time, the bidding only takes 3 weeks, 2 weeks for the Board of Selectmen, so you're about a month for that process there. And then you work into their schedule and when they're available. At that point, when would be the best time to construct?
I have a question
Sure.
about the carriage, barn and powerhouse. Laid out some great plans for that. What's the timeline to start? And when do you think it might be finished? I know the consultants are.
So the carriage barn, it's at its infancy right now, so we literally met with the consultant and Hillary. So that's just starting. We have ideas. Well, We'll have another meeting very shortly to bring that forward. The bathrooms themselves is probably the first one that will go. We've been trying to wait and sister the project with the powerhouse itself into one large project, meaning the powerhouse renovations of the potting shed and the annex bathroom all in one. So we disrupt the area once with one contractor and do it and maybe get a cost savings. That doesn't seem like it's gonna be able to come to pass, since the powerhouse is looking at possibly doing something different or something more, I should say, not necessarily different with their facilities. So at that point in time, I believe that we're gonna come in, and I didn't want to start anything on the bathrooms per se without having a finished product on the patio. I needed to know how I was gonna get people into it before I built it, right? So I needed to have a cohesive design, and while I had an architect doing the building itself, I needed a landscape architect to help me with the connectivity. Now I have both. So now at this point in time, we're looking that we can go forward at that point in time, build a bathroom. You know, granted, I need board of selectmen approval and what have you and others, but the build a bathroom and the accessibility to the bathroom from the parking lot. And then wait on the powerhouse and the potting shed at that point in time, and then come back when they're ready to finalize.
So I still didn't hear a time. Are you thinking it'll happen this year? Or-
I would like to have it this year, yes, and I would like to have it so that the bathrooms are up for this fall. We missed last year because we were waiting. It was a long process for the powerhouse to get their funding, get their approval and their funding. And then I waited in that for that. Now with the possibility of their redesign, I don't feel we can wait any longer. I don't want to sit and wait on our project any longer. I would like to have the bathrooms used. So if people are out on that portion of the park in the winter, they can utilize it. So I'm feeling I want to go forward now. You know, I obviously have to get approval from others, but that's my goal, is to start now. And we should be able to construct and finish before the end of the year.
Any other questions for Tiger?
Tiger, it's so great.
No problem. Apologize, I haven't been here in a while. Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, if you have any other questions, let me know. And then as we roll forward, like I said, those other ones, as they're done, we'll come back. So probably September-ish, I'll be back here.
Okay.
For those, because we'd like to kind of move on those. So that's kind of the goal, to be back here before you, so that you can see exactly what it is in fruition, as far as what we're looking at in totality. And then get your blessing, and then we can go forward from there.
This would be for the,
I was looking at the Waveney walkway,
Waveney
I'm sorry, the
walkway.
Mead Park walkway, and possibly the paddle area itself. Yeah, the paddle area, either September, October, and that'll be perfect timing for when John has to put in, his budget for that side, because it'll sit on the.
So I will contact you before our September meeting to see if the timing is appropriate.
That'd be great.
Okay.
That would be great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the tremendous work that you're doing. I know it's juggling a lot of balls.
No problem.
A lot of projects and a lot of priorities, and it's great to get this playground off the ground.
Yeah, I would agree.
Pretty exciting.
It's one of the ones that's been hanging out there that I don't like that it's hanging out there, so I appreciate the help. I appreciate John's help, so.
Sure.
All right,
Tiger, thank you.
thank you.
Questions? Okay, Chris, welcome.
Thank you. I'm gonna pull my chair up, so I don't know whether the mics or, how does this,
Come right-
sound system?
Don't make it up.
It'll pick up?
Yep.
Thank you for being here.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for inviting me, commissioners, good to see you all. Parks team, also great to see you. And amazing tour de force from Tiger and the crew in terms of what they're doing.
Yeah.
Across town, it's hard to believe, but it takes your breath away. Mr. Chairman, you asked me to give you a brief update on Bristol Park and what the Conservation Commission is looking at. I'll be happy to do that. I can report that we completed phase 3 on time and on budget. That was mostly trails between in the kind of the northeast section of it, which was included the pavilion, trail back to the bird blind that is now installed, and then between the two, there's a birdhouse trail. A trail of different types of birdhouses for different birds, so that our fellow citizens can look at and say, well, if I want to get a northern flicker, that's the kind of birdhouse you should use. So information exchange. I would ask that you put it in your diary, September 8th, 2024. 2 p.m. will be the centennial celebration of Bristol Park. Almost 100 years to the day.
Really?
The park's original celebration to this one.
Wow.
It'll be something to celebrate, and I think that as we look at phase 4 of the program, and this is a so you're all aware, it was created as a 5-year program to prepare the park for its centennial, and it was a $500,000 total spend from the town. We are on track and on budget to do so, and in part, it was also meant to be a private-public partnership. So Friends of Bristol Park have chipped in about $250,000 to do things that are a little bit nicer, such as the pavilion or the bird blind or the birdhouse trail or raised walkways, things where we can make a difference, including the master plan itself. So I think this has been a successful public-private partnership of the two parties. Mr. Chairman, you asked me also to bring up the fact that the Conservation Commission believes that going forward, the right private partner to work with Bristol Park would be the Land Trust. I'm not sure if you're all aware, but historically, Bristol Park was overseen by the Bird Protective Society or the Audubon Society. They were the kind of private partner that would work with the town on what we should do. The other partner that lasted all the way through till 2006 was the Garden Club. They took an active interest in it, and it makes sense because back when the park was founded in 24, there were only 2 parks, so Bristow and Mead. And they were both swampy kind of areas, so that the Garden Club wanted to play a role, and they did. But once they had Irwin Park to take care of, they said, well, we can't do Bristow too, so we're going to step off. The Land Trust is sort of the inheritor of the Audubon properties and is a natural partner for a space that's meant to be for birds and wildlife and native plants, and that's the role that they're going to play going forward. There is a public-private partnership agreement that's been drafted. It's based on things like the Waverly Park Conservancy Agreement, the Garden Club Agreement, and Irwin Park, and it's being reviewed by the First Selectman and the DPW and the Parks Department for how will that progress.
Does that, once that contract gets finalized, do we have to weigh in on that as part
I
of
don't
that?
believe so, because it's not now falls under Conservation Commission. So the Conservation Commission
You guys handle that, okay.
would handle it, and then that's in part because the Conservation Commission has the chair of the Conservation Commission sits ex officio on the board of the Land Trust. So the linkage is there already between the organizations, just like John and Tiger and Kevin Moynihan sit ex officio on the Waverly Park Conservancy Board.
Right.
I don't think you guys sit on the Garden Club board.
No, we don't.
Never been asked.
So I'm happy to answer this one, any questions you might have about Bristol Park. And I am encouraged by what Tiger wrote. We expressly work on improving the trails in Bristol to be what we call stroller and senior friendly. You know, we couldn't go all the way to handicap accessible, but it almost is. We've had handicapped birders come in and say, can I wheel around? And we said, you can, there's just one steep hill to get across. And so with the plan that's now been underway, and I thank you for you commissioners for improving that access way from Mead to Bristol, that will give us a senior accessible pathway that won't require to go to Rise, but can get you right onto the local trail. And having that, I think, will make a big difference for the Greenling, but for total park accessibility. I think people will find if you do get the FlexiPave or something similar to that, it's going to be pretty nice for seniors and folks. And you know, given where we are in town and seniors who are now living closer into town, this park is been pretty well visited. So it's a treat to hear that. Any questions about this?
Chris, it's a great presentation.
Thank you.
Yeah.
About Bristol or any of the other parks, Just give us the commissioner review, how you work in concert with the Parks Department.
It's along this lines. Right now, we're sort of moving through the construction phase of it, so there's mostly working with DPW. But we also work with Todd and earlier with John and saying, well, you know, where can we get some, a lot of times it's keeping the paths open, mowing either side of it because it tends to grow in, is one area. You know, we're moving benches and setting up new areas and the parks team comes in. We recently did I call it a dedication of the pavilion to the people who supported the construction of it. And we got a musical performance, but the Parks Department, I call up Todd, and I said, Todd, you know, I could really use about 24 chair seats, and anyway, we can get them in. So I think it's on a combined, the Parks Department has a regular routine to come into the park and do certain mowing areas and certain cleanup areas. A tree goes down, obviously. And then the other side of that is I'll be in there or a commissioner will be in there and they'll say, hey, we have a problem over here or a problem over there. Can you help us with it? So I would say it's cordial and it's not as formalized with the one exception, which was that the Parks Department now has a dedicated $12,000 budget for Bristol Park maintenance, which means that now we have a more specific fund that could be things like we need to plant a tree, or we need to remove a dead tree and replace it with another tree, or we need a bit of land care support in one or two areas. So there's some progress in that regard. So we're kind of learning our way through this together. So I don't know if that answers your question.
I think it does.
Okay.
Anybody else has a question?
Sure.
Thank you.
Just to follow on in terms of what the Conservation Commission is doing. Right now, a big focal point for us is the upcoming 2024 Plan of Conservation and Development. That's the 10-year guiding document for what the town wants to accomplish and what it hopes to do. And it's the plan of conservation and development. So we want to make sure the conservation side of that is reinforced, because the development side has a lot of people looking carefully at it. The conservation side tends to get divided in our town between the Conservation Commission, the Garden Club, Beautification League, Parks and Rec, Nature Center, Waveney Park Conservancy. So we're trying to orchestrate a more collective approach so that when the authors of this new plan work with the town, they're listening to the people who are concerned about conservation. And conservation includes public open spaces. And what it includes is the statement that the town backs activities in these areas, backs them financially, but also supports programs that are out there. I feel like that's a pretty good focal point, and I would think that the Parks and Rec Commission should be thinking about having a chance to speak to the consultants. I think it's SLR are the consultants, make sure that when they go out and they have public meetings, that Parks and Rec, as well as the Conservation Commission, all the other groups, have a chance to sit and bring ideas to them, and show them what we're trying to accomplish, so that they can say, okay, what's impeding you from making the goals?
Chris, do you have a meeting schedule? Has anything been set up yet?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Okay.
The consultants have been contracted, but the
Correct.
meeting schedules haven't occurred. But I say this because the earlier you get in on these discussions, the better off you'll be, because the sad part is when it's written, you cannot change it for 10 years. So it's your 1 in 10 year.
We can look to either have SLR come to the commission itself, or the commission can join with the Nature and Environment Committee that the library has formed.
I would like to invite them to one of our meetings.
That'd be fine. I'll
Yeah.
talk to Sarah Carey, the town planner.
And
She's,
just-
and then she's good. Right now, they've got a couple of months of getting their feet wet. And then they have a series of meetings with constituents, you being one of them, the commission being one of them. At that point, so we could set up a meeting at that point, and I would say, have your ideas, prior. What
Sure.
what I'll do is I'll share the plan with John it's a link on the town website, and then everyone can read it, the existing plan. For the 2014 plan and understand exactly how that was shaped and formed, and then you can kind of feel for things going forward. There's a pretty good read from the other groups that we've been meeting with on it. And I think it would be a good thing for parks as well. And to Chris's point, there's an 824 statute, 8-24 statute in the state that requires the town to perform an 8-24 review from P and Z to make sure that any future planning, any future development fits with the plan of conservation development. So I have to go there quite often for a sidewalk extension. Certain improvements that we're doing have to go for that, had to go for Dunning Stadium improvements. I'll have to go for Copple Field, had to go for a sidewalk extension, things of that nature. And if it's not in the plan and you don't get a favorable review from there, very difficult. You can't move forward without then going to the town council and having a 2/3 positive vote from the town council to override the commission's decision. That's very difficult, right? So it's much better to have it in the plan and be done at that point in time. So to Chris's point, we'll get them in front of you and then and have them meet with you. And it's a very long process. It's a year-long process to do the entire plan, but it's a necessary process. And it'd be fantastic to be in front of this commission as well.
Whenever you feel necessary, communicate with us, and we'll put them on the agenda. Love to have some dialogue with them. And I would also request my fellow commissioners to go to the website and look at the 2014 plan, just to, from an historical context. It gives us kind of a starting point. I haven't read it myself, so I'm going to. So,
One last final point on where the conservation commission is focused, and one of our responsibilities is overseeing the natural resources of our town. So there's a focus a little bit from the conservation commission on water supply, water management, screening, testing for chemicals and what have you. In the light of what's just happened in Vermont and you can see river flooding risks and the importance for having places that can absorb water and then slowly drains out. The other part of that is trying to convince the town to continue to look at opportunities to preserve open space. And it struck me that there was two strong cases recently in the past 10 years where could have had an opportunity to grab a piece of land that would have enhanced the parklands and areas. The first one is the little house on the corner of Mill Pond, 123. And what is that road that comes out there?
East Avenue.
Pardon?
106 East Avenue.
106 East Avenue. You know that little house on that corner? And that house was available for $500,000. And the town was not prepared or wasn't thinking that this is on the corner of a beautiful scenic park. It would have been a beautiful view shed. And instead it went to a guy who said, well, I can get it and I'll do what I can over time. If the Parks and Rec Department had grabbed that, it would have created this beautiful vista coming down 123 and 106 for everybody to see how beautiful. So one example. The second example is right at the exit of Mead Park. An old house was standing there. It was taken down. It's been redeveloped beautifully into a farmhouse style. But you're just sitting here saying, we're running out of parking spots in Mead Park. The ability to have taken that probably would have gotten you 30 or 40 more parking spots. And yet, no one is saying, hey, we should be looking at opportunities to do these. And one of the reasons why is the town does not set aside funds for open space purchases. So if you want money from the town for open space purchase, get ready for a 12 to 24 month effort to get the money out. At which no private seller would ever wait that long under I'm going to get you the money eventually. So one of the things we're doing is we're fighting in the Conservation Commission to see that money goes into the land acquisition fund every year. The ordinance is written, the town council passes, that money can be dispersed for parks and recreation, but it could also be dispersed in support of land trust acquisitions to preserve open space long term. And I would think that as a commission, that's one area where you would like to weigh in, and the simple mechanism that we're proposing to the Board of Finance is I'm not sure if any of you have ever sold a house in New Canaan, but if you did, you would pay a conveyance fee of 100 basis points, 1% to the state of Connecticut, and 25 basis points to the town of Connecticut. And you say to yourself, well, okay, I'll pay that because hopefully my property appreciated, but you should wonder, why did I pay that? Why is that tax there? Well, it was originally put on because there was a federal tax that got eliminated, and the state of Connecticut said, we'll allow the towns to charge 25 basis points in hopes that they'll use that money to preserve open space for future generations. So, it would make sense for a Parks Department, for a Parks and Rec Department to be supportive of something like that, because it's your successors who will be enabled to do more than what you're doing now. We're basically handcuffed in some ways.
Chris, do you have any targets that you're looking, that you think might fit into this plan, or?
Well, that is true. The Conservation Commission undertook a complete open space study of New Canaan and identified only, of all of New Canaan, there's only 3% undeveloped. Right, 3% under, meaning somebody has a lot and then there's an open lot next to it, or there's a property with 40 acres, undivided kind of thing. You say there are opportunities. So there's already a list prioritized of potential acquisitions, mostly from the land trust standpoint, but it should also be developed by the Parks Department. I think that you should be looking at, if there are adjacent opportunities to existing parks, why wouldn't we be a player in something like that? And that's, those are the points I want to make. I want to say thank you to the Parks team and Tiger for helping us with the Bristol Park redevelopment. We think it's going to be nice. Phase 4. There's a little bit of hardscape work, but more on the softscape side. And in particular, making sure we secure our fence lines, because once the deer gets in, it's a little harder for them to get out, and then they eat their way through our plantings and our native plants. And then there's some softscape and other projects. I'd also like to get gates that self-close as opposed to being left open. And also, we're going to take on the fence line. We're going to string, try to get it up to about 7 feet, make it a little harder for the deer to jump, to create a deer explosion. Right. So, thank you for the time.
Thank you. Pete, you have a question?
Yeah, you mentioned the open spaces, and I live in an area that's 4-acre zoning. And much of the town has got 4-acre, 3-acre, 2-acre, 1-acre zoning. And having grown up in a big city, I look around and I say, there's nothing but open spaces. How do you respond to that?
Yeah, I think it's a great point. So there's definitely open space for you on your 2 or 4 acres. But when you look at people moving into town or the center of town, and you think about the equitable aspect of open space, it's not as good as you'd like it to be. And there's another really important aspect about why that open space is so important, which is, I think Tiger, you said this, about 70% of the town land mass is on aquifer and septic system. In other words, no water source. So if you start to if you overdevelop your outer space, you're going to have problems with your aquifers. You're going to have problems with your septic systems and everything else. So all of a sudden, the fact that we have this means we are remarkably fortunate to be able to have a water supply that we do have, and cleaner air, and more nature, more biodiversity. So I'm with you. The truth is, it's beautiful to be on a 1-acre or 2-acre lot, but if you really want to have nature, a 10-acre, a 20-acre, a 40-acre woodland, Bristol Park is 17 acres. There's a big plus, and I believe long term, a lot of the people who moved to New York City, 750 families in the last 3 years, came out of more urban environments, and they came with little kids, and their life in the city was, I live in an apartment, I got a baby, I go out of the apartment, and I go to a park, and I hang out there for a while, and I come back. So when they came here, parks were a big deal. The fact that we had playgrounds in parks played a big role. The difference between a good town and a great town is public spaces. Simply, yeah, I agree. And, we talked about open space. New York City is 23% open space. Believe it or not, it's really that much love its land. It's dedicated. And we have 7 or 8. So we have it and we don't have it. So, I go back and forth on this, but I'm on the, we need more and we should take opportunity because there anything, we ain't making it anymore. Once it's gone, it's very hard to get back. Very hard to revitalize what you already got. So that's me in my passion.
Yeah, absolutely. Any questions for Chris? Chris, thank you. And also want to reach out and give you a big kudos for the dedication of the pavilion. It was a wonderful event. I was there. Great speeches, great music. It was fantastic.
Yes, fun.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you.
Okay, kids concert and maybe Michael Lewis Smith. Nope.
They're talking about going at the end of September,
Oh, okay.
so. Yeah, we're still at the talking phase of that, so I'm not sure why we didn't comment.
So you, this because of the news, this, okay,
Yeah.
we were expecting as well. Okay,
Yeah,
and okay, end of September. All right, so we'll strike that. Next on to the ice rink update. Gene, thank you for this detail.
Okay, well, there's a lot of drawing language there, and I'm not gonna go through all of them. I can give them commitments and stuff, I don't like it when you present a good stuff and read what's in front of you. So I will highlight it, but I won't go through in detail, but I have to answer questions if they arise. Anyway, to try and give you some highlights of what we did and what we're doing. This year was pretty much totally open skate time. While we're going to have programs in the future to expand that beyond that, the baseline right now is open skate lines. We did have a limited number of trial skating lessons with licensed instructors. We did do a few parties, of which the opportunity to do both of those are substantial down the road. This year, 90% of our activity was on weekends and holidays. We hope to increase that weekday use through programs like skating lessons, park and rec programs, possibly in the morning, preschoolers. Part of the reason, by the way, it's weekday stuff is weekend stuff is because the kids are so busy at school and other after school activities. But anyway, 90% is weekends right now. We'll change that down the road. Our major users are children, which is in line with, I think, our expectations certainly. And if you look at the field usage and activities and in general, people buy the pool today. So we can, a lot of kids are there, a lot of people, a lot of kids, great program. If you look at all our towns, fields, this is pretty much expectations. Of course, this means that it's 70% kids, we have 30% adults, which I think is different than most of our programs in terms of field usage. They're mostly kids. So we probably appeal to a broader spectrum of community than many other programs, not all, but certainly a lot of them. So hopefully down the road, it'll be preschoolers right through seniors of all ages. In fact, we have some seniors came pretty much every day we're open. Really love the chance to get out there and do something besides just walking. Overall, we estimate that we had about, look at these numbers, that by the way, they're not broken down. I say, well, how many people they were just visits? And when someone buys a day pass, they buy one every day, we can't track that. Same thing with season passes. They buy a season pass for a family, they can afford kids, they come every day or just a few times. We do have some ability to track that because when it comes to have a season pass, we try and look them up and we try to take a note of how many kids they have, and how many times they came. So we actually have a little better handle on season pass numbers than we do in terms of translating total pass. By the way, total pass counts are pretty accurate. But then we don't know if one kid, if 10 day passes for kids, 10 kids, or over a period of time, and whether it's 5 kids and and 1.5 times. We estimate that we served about 600 to 700 different children. And about 150 to 200 adults this past season, which is an abbreviated season. Coming up to next season, we hope to expand our time. We're going to start about 3 weeks earlier. Hopefully go a week or two later. It's very weather dependent.
3 weeks earlier brings us to approximately when are you hoping to start?
Well, we hope to open the first week of December.
Okay, that's
Part of it is, they don't think last year was partly teething problems. When they said the parking lot will be ready on November 1st, that wasn't taken into account. So it's 2 weeks before we can do anything with it, because it has to settle down, things like that, weather problems. Chiller problems, whatever. Anyway, we hope to open the first week of December. We would like to go to the last week of February, but it depends. But we want to, expand this year, we want to do skate rentals, which we didn't have this year. We're probably going to limit it to children's skate rentals. More going to take on too much too quickly. We also want to expand our lessons that we have. We did have a couple of instructors, we have instructors lined up. It's a lot to get a program going, actually. We hope down the road they have parking rec programs, maybe Y wants to be interested, whatever it is. Expand our party capabilities, special events type of thing, but it'll take time. It won't happen this coming season. That's pretty much it. Skate rentals. That's about it. We're going to do that here.
You anticipate any issues opening the rink up? Should that go pretty smoothly?
It should go smoothly.
Okay.
There will probably be some hiccups.
Yeah. There's no issues with Eversource in there.
Well, they shouldn't be a problem this year.
Okay.
It's more, for instance, building the box was simple. Supposed to be simple this year, but we found out that we had to build a platform over our what's called headers, the stuff that brings the Freon in and the cooler. It's not Freon, it's a black hole water mixture actually brings in, which also provided actually a great place for parents to sit or anyone spectators to sit and watch the kids skate.
Yep.
We had to have a ramp, which is more complicated than we thought. We had to have some railings. It was with the new parking lot, which overall is a substantial improvement over last year's gravel. Primarily in terms of slope, there's a lot less slope. So there's a lot less stone dust you have to bring in and level than it was last year. But we're still teething, and I expect it will be some hiccups, but I think we should open up the first week of December. But we have more time, so part of the lot is ready now.
The playground. Is that hoping that we're only hoping to get the design going this year, right?
I'd love to keep going, get the whole thing going. My biggest fear is the supply chain issues with playground equipment.
Okay,
Notice that.
I'm
Right.
just seeing maybe conflict with the,
No, we won't, we shouldn't, but
Okay.
this playground can almost be built on its own location.
Right.
There would be some spillover, but I think we could work through it, and you can't do a lot of building in the middle of winter anyways. You can't count on the weather, so we'll probably end up shutting down
okay.
at some point.
Actually be self-supporting financially.
I think so down the road at the same time. But we're not asking the town for money.
Yeah, that was my question. You're showing the revenue side, but I'm used to also seeing the expense side.
Well, that's not the entire revenue side. It's also grants, donations, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm not showing you the expense side either.
Yeah, that's what I'd like to see, can you talk to the expense side of it?
Well,
What it costs just to run, you know,
It costs a
keep
lot
it
of money.
frozen,
It
and
costs a
set it
lot.
up and take it apart.
they cost a lot. Just to set it up and take it down is over $50,000.
Yeah.
Which if you looked at it, you say, gee, you don't even have the income to cover that. But first of all, we will have an expanded season, which will increase our revenue. We expect with group lessons and having skate rentals to have more participation. Just from knowing it's there, more participation. So, but for instance, we have a fundraising goal this year of $70,000.
So do you always envision you'll have to be in fundraising mode to kind of make the, but, you know.
I think it will, the other, like Westport is self-sufficient. They've been, yes, they've been in operation for probably 25, 30 years. They did self-sufficiency a while ago, which includes, by the way, and money set aside to replace equipment. And they do get where we have to have a tent, they do have to have a pavilion equivalent to our Kiwanis pavilion, which is given to them for free. Our tent overhead is probably going to be a full season, $35,000 a year as an example. Really? Yeah. But anyway, we think we can get to self-sufficiency, but we'll have to see. If it's popular enough,
Right.
that could happen. If it's popular enough, we might get some town funding. Don't forget the pool had quite a lot of town funding to get where it is. And sort of, and sports fields, there's a lot of town funding there. But it's not we have no plans to ask for town money. And we don't need it to get started. We did get an Arbor grant of $25,000, which was from the town, but it wasn't town money.
Any other questions for Gene?
No, thank
Okay,
you.
Gene, thank you very much. That's awesome. We're gonna keep moving on. If anybody's as warm as I am, it is really steamy in here. So John,
Okay, well, I'll go quick. As everybody knows, fireworks went off on the
Yep.
night we picked.
awesome job.
It went very well. There's a ton of people to thank, so I'm not even gonna start with that, but we're very happy how that went. Summer camp, we're finishing up the second session this week. It's going very well. We get any comments from it's too hot to this is the best camp I've ever been to, type of thing. So, you know, that's going well. Pool is open. Numbers are good as far as the amount of passes we sold this year so far. We sold 823 family passes. Total last year was 920. They're not coming in like crazy, but you have hot days like this. There's people still that come back in August and want to join. Individuals 139 this year so far compared to 184, and the Nannies and the seniors are similar type things, so that's going well. Just as a note, Phoebe Knowles resigned as the wedding coordinator for the town. We're in the process of looking for a replacement now. Pickleball. Pickleball, we've been dealing with noise complaints, and we put up some signs with the hours, which were vandalized and taken down and removed. So we're going to be putting up new signs. But what we're having problems with is people were actually going out as early as 5:30 to play. And the pickleball courts are open continually 8 to 8. And so we had to start locking them up. Before that, we left them unlocked, but unfortunately, but fortunately, pickleball is very popular. So people are coming probably from other towns. They know that there's an open court and they're up at 5:30 in the morning, they're going to play, that type of thing. On a good note, we've been working with the Racket Club, and they're letting us borrow 4, I'm gonna say portable pickleball courts that we're gonna put up at this for the summer over at the high school. They're weighted lines. It's not perfect, and nets, temporary nets won't hurt the surface at all. We're not painting on the high school tennis courts, so that will alleviate some, that will give people a place to go, and we don't see any problems with noise over at the high school. So
Does the high school have a problem with the lines being painted? Is that why we're going with the?
there's potential that it could affect our high school matches, having the dual lines out there. So we've been recommended, this is the best thing to try it, see how it works. The Racket Club uses them when they bring in and have a big tournament, they take over their tennis courts.
I've been helping tape the lines in the
Yeah.
Racket Club,
Right,
so,
these are weighted ones, they're a little bit different.
Yeah.
But we're gonna give it a try, you know, the cost was right.
okay.
Does that take over 2 courts?
What we're gonna try to put 4 pickleball courts on 2 courts. Some places try to put on more, the lines get confusing, because the way your eye picks up the different lines, so. This is what our little bit of research we want to try first, so we're gonna do the 2 courts closest to Lapham, or closest to us now. So there'll still be enough room for people to play tennis and think it's gonna be a good solution. for
And those will be open early in the morning.
They'll be open whenever. We don't lock the courts. You know, the nice thing is we don't really have any neighbors that are close by. You know, Wade Mead Care is quite a ways away with a fairly good buffer.
Do you know when, you're gonna get those weighted lines down?
Hopefully by the beginning of next week.
Oh.
Yeah,
That is good.
so it's a matter of just getting them out there.
And the courts there, they're not cracked, they're in good shape.
No, the high school state courts are in great shape. That was, don't ask me when, but that's, post-tension concrete. So there's no cracking. Any cracking that's there is micro cracks that won't change elevation. Those courts will stay in good shape except for being repainted probably 20 to 30 years. Yeah, a similar construction that we get at the pickleball courts down at E Park. There's one continuous slab compacted by cables that run through it.
We-
So, let's see. So now kind of going into maintenance mode, we're finally at a point where we can start catching up on things, anything from weeding to whatever. So with that, today, we had the turf company come out, had to do some repairs on Water Tower Turf 1, with re-gluing the seams. The guys are weeding. You know, you probably noticed some of the walls, especially along Laughton Road, where they've been cleaned out. Some of that work was rebuilding them, but now keeping them so that you can see them, and along the pool. Tennis court maintenance, we will have the company come back in to do mid-season maintenance. We did it at the beginning of August last year. We're gonna probably do it at the end of July, beginning of August.
Yeah, some of the lines need to work.
Yes.
they're-
Well, you know, I got an email today that somebody said that just lines, the guys will be down there tomorrow to look at them. You know, and clean out some of this stuff. Part of that is, with all the rain we've had, when we get 1 3/4 inches of rain, that lets the courts get soft, the nails don't bind up as well. You know, sounds like excuses. The other flip side of that is after we got that rain on Sunday and we're closed Monday, to help that more, if we stay closed Tuesday, we get complaints, but it would help with the line staying down. So it's that balancing act. And it's the weather's been very wet this year.
I'm gonna say as a player, those courts, you can play them 2 hours after it stops raining, and they're like,
You can play on them, but it's not helping. You know, the brushing and everything else, the tapes aren't as firm into the surface.
Is this Keith's fault then?
If you want to blame them, that's fine, Hank.
I'm used to this.
No, you know, it's a balancing act, you know, I would not want the phone calls on Tuesday if we weren't open. But, you know, it affects our programs that we run down there, it affects a lot of people playing. So it's a balancing act of how much we should be open and be closed. We do the same balancing act with our fields, you know. There'd be times that we'd like to be closed for a week and just can't do it.
Would running over with like one of those little steamroller things, would that help flatten out those lines?
That's supposed to happen daily.
Well, that helps, but it also could hurt. What happens is once they pick up a little bit, any brushing brings the loose material underneath.
Yeah.
And that's part of what they'll do in the summer maintenance. They scrape off what's known as dead material, which does nothing but just, and once you get a little bit under there, there's more and more, and it just slowly keeps working out.
Yes.
So you can't put the tapes down with a roller, so to speak. You need to get out there, clean the stuff out, hammer them down again. Sometimes you have to even move the nails to a better location. So
And that was done at the beginning of the summer.
those tapes get pulled up every year. In the fall, we pull them up for the winter,
Right.
and then come
April,
springtime, when they do the surface, they do the whole thing, and then the last step is to put all the tapes down. They relay out for it. So, So other than that, with that, with the guys having more time to get stuff done, unfortunately, the rain's done the same thing. We're not seeing the burned out grass where we can skip a couple weeks mowing and stuff like that. So we're kind of still in springtime mode with that, but only other thing is summer concerts are going well. I don't know if we'll make it to any of them, being that it's 8:30. We won't make it over there tonight, but maybe you catch a song or two.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a pity that we have done this all through the summer.
But we only missed this one.
Only missed this one.
Yeah,
We don't meet in August.
so I'll keep the guys making sure that you show up at every one. Yeah. So.
Any questions for John? Okay. All right, moving on to my report. I just have three quick things. First and foremost, welcome, Lindsay. We're really glad that you're part of the team. We all look forward to working with you. Lindsay.
I'm excited to be here, so thank you.
You're welcome. Secondly, just basic email, Michelle Crookeden is now the executive director of the Waveney Conservancy. She is replacing Phoebe Knowles. Okay, and she was hired, her first day was Monday, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
Right, so she'll probably be here at some of the meetings going forward. And then last but not least, we do not meet in August. Our next meeting will be on, please, September. I believe it's going to be the 13th, but let me just double check that. I will get back on that. September 13th.
Yeah.
I can tell you in a second. I just want to double check that date real quick.
That was one of the ones that I have to be.
Yeah. You have to double check. We'll obviously get that date. That. But however, in the event that we, something comes to our attention that we need to vote on, okay, September 20th, excuse me, we did not write down, Wednesday, September 20th is our next meeting, okay?
It's a week later than normal.
Well, that's what I thought, yeah.
Yeah, I
September 20th,
want to be able to go to the New England Park Association fall conference.
exactly. So, but if there is something that comes up in the next 60 days that we need to vote on, we will call a special meeting and do it via Zoom. So if you guys are away or something that has happened in the past, you'll have ample notice. We'll try to keep it, very like starting at 7 o'clock with Chip. We'll just talk about that specific topic. Okay, just to kind of forewarn everybody. Okay, so that was it for my report. Are there any questions or from the floor or any? Sure.
Sure, thank you so much. So I'm Angela Jameson and I've been a resident in New Canaan since 1994 and I play tennis at Mead Park and enjoy it. Firstly, I want to thank the Commission and the Parks and Rec Department for all the work that they did now several years ago to make Mead Park tennis courts once again, an enjoyable place to play tennis. However, this season there have been a few issues and we've touched upon a couple of them, and I'd just like to bring this to the Commission's attention. So, the first is one of safety. I don't think the courts are being rolled every day and swept first thing in the morning. And I play at weekends, and in 2 games there have been accidents. One person strained a finger ligament because she fell, and I myself took a really nasty tumble because my foot stuck in the soft clay, and the rest of the body kept moving, and there I was on the ground with a very nasty graze. You talked about the court lines. I think that is an accident just waiting to happen. You could get your foot caught on that very easily and you'd be over on the ground. So safety is issue number 1. Issue number 2, the reservation system. So everything has teething problems. But some of the things I've noticed this year is there seem to be different rules for different folks and on different days of the week. So first of all, we were told that no, you couldn't make reservations at the tennis hut. And then, sometimes you can, depending on who the person is in the hut. Some groups seem to be able to book for 2 hours at one stretch, whereas the rest of us are limited to 90 minutes. And the online system is problematical. If you want to play at 11 o'clock in the morning, you may very well not be able to make a reservation because you cannot reserve the court until 11 o'clock, exactly to the second, 1 week ahead of time. So if somebody wants to play at 10 and take the court for 90 minutes, then you're never going to get a reservation. And let me tell you, this can be gamed, and you don't want that to happen, whereby people start booking blocks of time ahead of when they really want to play, cancel it, and then make a new reservation. So I think you might want to think about just allowing people to book on the day, 1 week ahead of time, whatever time of the day they want to play. Issue number 3, often at the weekends, which is when I play, there is no one in the hut, either to swipe the permits that we've bought or to collect the guest fees. And there are a lot of people who don't have permits. So that's money that the town is not collecting. And I would also just like to say that I think the cost of $265 for non-residents is for a permit is pretty high, given the state of the courts and the difficulty of making online reservations. And the fact of the matter is, Tennis Network, and I'm sure it's the same for pickleball, are not restricted to town lines. Everybody's networks, people who live in surrounding towns. I go and play on Norwalk's courts, and you know, I enjoy that. I'm not paying taxes there, I'm paying it here, but it all works itself out. So I would like the town to be a little more welcoming to people who don't live in New Canaan but want to play. Sure, they should pay for it, but $265 for a season is pretty hefty. So that was what I wanted to bring to your attention. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Wendy Opel, and I'm one of the weekend players, at tennis. Well, you did a list, 1, 2, 3. Number 1, the website. Let me say, I've given up. B has given me a password and did the whole thing, spent about a half an hour dealing. I have yet to get on it. So I do it through phoning or going to the hut. Angela, I'm one of these people that do 2 hours playing tennis on the weekend. I play with Keith and a bunch of other men and women. And I've got 4 names going, so I can get 2 hours. I'm not taking 2 people and making a reservation. I'm getting 4. And I'm the lucky person that has to make these reservations. The rules, you know, they have been terrible all year. And I noticed, I usually play on 3 and 4 on Saturday and Sundays. And the same spots when I left in October are the same spots where the tapes are raised. And we're all gonna kill each other. You know, and it's not gonna be because we sling that ball onto our faces. The brushes and the rules, they just need to be maintained.
The line brushes are.
The line brushes are not working, and I think it's not a question that they're broken. I just think they need cleaning and oiled and something like that.
Maybe replace.
And some of them replaced.
Yeah, we have some on order.
And what else did I have?
Oh, these two.
The squeegees on the pickleball. I have to say, the pickleball thing is so much better this year than it was last year. Last year, it was, it was open season. It was really terrible. And this year, it's a lot better. But the same thing is the squeegees don't work. And I'm also going to suggest, if we're going to have somebody in the hut, that maybe you leave a blower. Because when it rains, you know, if somebody doesn't bring a blower, the courts aren't going to get dry. And it's just a thought, you know.
Squeegees don't work, so you gotta do towels.
Those
I mean,
are,
people are
those are,
dragging
those,
towels.
we did not provide those squeegees. We don't know who did. We had to remove them because they were, where they were located was a safety concern. People running into them.
Interesting.
Yes, we don't know who put them up, similar to some of the stickers that have been added up for advertising, which we've taken down multiple times.
Yeah, I mean, the whole pickleball thing last year was a zoo and, you know, and for some reason, I'm always the lucky person that has to make reservations for all these people.
Keep it up, Wendy.
I know, you love it. But it was very difficult and being able to do it in the hut has saved me, you know, I just can't get this phone thing. It's a disaster.
It's also difficult because when you have a problem with the reservation, and you can't reach Steve Dayton to get back to you about how you get signed on, like it happened to me on the weekend, I couldn't make a reservation. And, you know, it was July 4th weekend, you have to wait until.
Yeah,
Next
you
day.
know,
Did you?
and I gotta say, the kids in the
Yeah.
hut are terrific. I mean, they're dealing with us.
Nobody was there. And
You said website, are you speaking to Wendy to court reserve or to court reserve?
You give me a nice password, you know, we went over it a couple times, I came back because I couldn't get in.
One of the things
Still
that
can't-
happens is it's the same system that the racket club uses. So if you try to reserve and you're in the wrong place, so to speak, you're trying to reserve at the racket club. That's one of the problems.
That's-
Fortunately, the old reservation system shut down.
It's too
They
bad. 'cause
they
it
sold out and the company closed them down completely.
Really?
Yeah.
But I, you know, and another problem, because I'm old, I also have a tremor, so I'm trying to do this phone thing in my fingers and they're flying and all that, but that's not your issue. But I would like to, I even had somebody yesterday who's younger, no tremor, and she tried to get on with all the pools, couldn't get on with my thing, so I don't know.
You know, it is quirky, it's not 100% yet, the
It
reservation
really isn't,
system
and
is a
I
problem.
don't think I'm the only one, to be quite honest. But
You're
they-
not the only one.
Oh,
You're
I'm
not.
glad.
But I'd love to say that it's all growing pains. I'm not sure if it is. If we knew of a better reservation system,
And the other,
and that's
there are
the
a
problem.
couple,
we haven't found one.
as Angela said, if you're there, like we play at 10 o'clock or 9 o'clock, depending when I can get the courts, and I have the 4 names. I have to be there. I can't go on the court at 9 o'clock and play. Because I've got to be there at 9 and I've got to say to the little fellow in the hut, and you make a court reservation for next week. Because if I go at 8:59, I cannot do it. That just doesn't make sense.
That's
But
equal
it's a-
to the playtime. I know, I've had that happen to me too.
And it
So
drives
We
you
weren't, we
nuts.
can't default it to midnight. You know, to open it up for the day. No, we can't. So it does that
They do
exactly
that-
1 week.
They do that at Wheat Beach, I know. It's
What
midnight.
service do they use?
I thought it was Port Reserve, but I don't know.
That-
Their town,
If there's a way.
and
if
there's
you-
also the other thing that we have, we're supposed to have an allotted 90 minutes of play. And if there's a half hour on the court here and an hour over here, you can't reserve the half hour and the hour. Say you want to go and hit the ball around with your daughter, and then you want to go and play for an hour with 3 friends. You can't do that. You have to do 1 reservation at one time.
And
So
you can't
that needs
cancel
to
the
happen.
court.
And you can't cancel the court on the day of, so if it rains, you look bad. Because you mean to call it in, but you can't, or to,
Well, you
cancel
can't
it
do
with
it on the website.
and you can't
Oh,
change it either on the day of. Say, instead of playing at 10 o'clock, shoot, so-and-so said her mother's coming, and so we gotta make the reservation for 4:30 instead. You can't even go on the thing and do that. You gotta
It's
call
not
Steve
flexible.
Dayton and blah, blah,
Basically,
blah.
is what it is. And the old website, you could make a court reservation before the exact
Right.
time.
Yeah.
Completely different system.
And it was
Unfortunately,
better.
they
it was
closed
simpler,
down.
it was Absolutely,
And we agree with you.
okay.
We agree with
You need
you.
to find
Unfortunately,
it.
they're out of business.
You
If
need to
we hear of a
find it.
better one, we'd be glad. When Steve Dayton did the research.
Our town's IT department and maybe do some research.
Steve did a lot of research to find
Okay.
a new system when they go down on us. Okay.
It's tennis, because some of the issues are.
Yeah.
tennis players.
I don't mean to undermine you, Wendy, but I've used it on the rare occasion I wanted to read. And I must say, I had no problem at all.
Most people don't, but there are people that have problems. It's not.
Hey, guys, I'm gonna have to limit this a little bit,
right.
because,
Just one more.
Dan, do you have something to say?
Yes, I
Yeah,
Yeah, hello. This is Betty on Zoom, and I'd like the opportunity.
Betty, I'm not recognizing you yet. There's somebody else here. I'll let you in a sec, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Michelle Wilkes. I'm a New Canaan resident. And I am a new pickleball player, and I am one of the pickleball players that was playing early in the mornings because I work full time. And I didn't know about the high school courts that are coming up, so that's great, and I'm really appreciative of that. The pickleball courts in Mead Park are beautiful, and a group of us, Anand was another New Canaan resident who was here earlier, who stepped out. But there are a group of us New Canaan residents that work full time that, you know, the 6:30 to 8 a.m. was a great time. I didn't know that there were any noise complaints. We've been playing for months.
Yeah.
So if there
You
have
told me
been,
there weren't any.
There weren't any, but over
Until
the,
June 14th, there weren't any.
you're right,
Yeah.
you're right, but now there has been quite a few.
okay, so I didn't realize that we've been playing there for months and then all of a sudden it was closed until 8 and I can't.
We have to be respectful of our neighbors, particularly you've got some condos on the side as well. Okay, can we, I'd like to keep this moving, okay? Yeah, if there's, because we're kind of going over the same ground. here.
Discuss this so that we can actually get somewhere with it.
Well, I think a couple things. Betty, do you have anything else?
Yeah, yes, I do. Is it okay for me to speak now?
Yeah, go ahead. I'm gonna,
Okay.
like to, we've had a long meeting here, so if you can be as
Yeah.
concise as possible, I'd be appreciative.
Yes, I know, and the other speakers were speaking for 15 minutes, so I would like to be recognized. I'm going to bring up an update of issues that have been happening in Kiwanis Park. As you guys know, I've been coming here for decades to meetings regularly. I couldn't come in person. Regarding the Y Camp pickup that I mentioned last month, there has not been any improvement whatsoever. I appreciate having the lines in the parking lot. However, the cars are still parking, 2 cars parking consistently under the Moreno tree, which is impacting the edging. There are still cars, the parents picking up, parking without the placards in the handicap spots. They leave there, they go down to the white building to fetch their children and come back. The cars are now parking by the Porta Sand, which has been removed about a week or so ago. And in one instant that I noticed, a car went by the pavilion, turned in front of the cabin where the Y sets up their office, and turned to exit and stopped by the barricade. So they went completely around, and parents are parking in the no parking zone along by the cabin. So this is an issue, and I want to know who can address this. This has been going on since last year. Is it John Howe? Is it Margaret Riley? Is it the 2 representatives, you know, the commissioners? Who can come between 3:45 to about 4:15 to see it at its worst? That's number one. And there is an issue from day one with the scanner not working. It's not one of the gatekeepers. It's the several of the gate attendants squeeze it. It beeps, but it's not recording the people that are coming in. So I had to say, my name didn't come up, and it's just moving people on, or they are saying, yeah, it did. And then when it's done several times, only then do I see that my name shows up on the screen. The same problem is happening with the card reader. So at one point, it must have been week 1 and 2, guests were not being charged because the card reader couldn't work. And the attendants that are working there are just flagging the guests in. because if they tried to put the guest in, there would be a charge and they weren't accepting cash. So that's the two issues there. We have a question. The seniors have been delightfully using two benches that were, I believe, donated by the Kiwanis Club. They were by the pavilion. We enjoyed sitting on it. It's very convenient for people, older people, to sit up, comfortable with the backs, to sit there. And right before July 4th, the benches were removed, and one resident was there and one of the workers were told the bench is being removed for a dedication with the Kiwanis Club and will come back. So far it's July 12th. It's about, I guess, 10 days and the benches haven't come back. So I'd like to know when they would be returned. And the last issue that I have, we have a beautiful bulletin board. Last year and the year before, I put up the hours, I put up information concerning Kiwanis Beach. Can somebody from Park Recreation Department put up the hours, put up the information for getting the passes with the amounts, and also things like the Harry Potter birthday and the cardboard boat regatta and the library toddler reading hours that they have on Tuesday and Thursday. People don't know what's going on in the park. And I just feel that I'm the one that people come to when I'm on the beach asking me questions that I shouldn't be answering, that it should be there for people who come to the park or to the beach to be able to see and to get that information. So I have to say thank you very much, and thank you for listening to what the residents here have to say.
Betty, thank you. I appreciate your comments as well. Okay, going just before we wrap things up, a couple of quick things. First, regarding.
I have
the
comment.
fees around town. We
I have
will
a comment,
see
please.
the First quarter of next year, okay, so we can't address that. The noise issue right now, it's gotta be 8 o'clock, just so that we keep there's been a high level number of complaints in terms of that, so we have to keep the start time at 8 o'clock.
Can you disclose, like, is
What's
this,
that?
is this one complaint or 10 complaints, like what?
We're gonna say around 10 complaints.
10 complaints.
So that's sufficient.
There's
Okay.
a noise ordinance, though. You
Yeah, it
can't
says-
have noise before 7 o'clock, right? So why can't we play at 7?
Our first problem will be, we need to find an attendant that is able to come in and unlock the courts at 7. So we're also looking at the possibility of putting in an automatic lock that would open up at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, whatever the time
Great,
is.
that would be great.
We have that in the bathrooms. We're looking into it, see if we could have one of the gates done that way.
That makes a
But I
lot of
don't have
sense.
anything that's concrete yet.
Right. Yeah.
So these are
Understand.
kind of growing pains.
Right. Understand with the noise ordinance too, because there was a complaint against the baseball teams that were playing music. That was like 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and believe me, we got a number of complaints, okay? So it's, even though the ordinance says 7 AM, if, you make it 7 AM, and people are waking up to the pickleball sounds. They can,
They're gonna wake up to the leaf blowers
Right.
and the lawn mowers,
Right.
because citizens are out there
Yeah.
every morning.
The solution is the pickleball courts at the high school, which John is.
yeah, I think
That will help a lot.
Oh, and then in terms of your comment about the reserves, obviously that's a work in progress.
It's a work in progress. Overall, it works well.
Yeah.
It does have some limitations. Francesca, the last one did too.
Yes,
There's a whole bunch of things you were frustrated with that one. I don't have a perfect solution. If anybody
I
finds
would
something
love
else, we'll
to
be
work
glad
with
to look
Steve
at it.
about it. Is Steve the one who is in charge?
Steve's the one that takes care of
So he's the one who is interfacing with the IT, with the court reserve.
the company for
Okay.
yes.
I would love to be able to talk to him about it, because I think I can illustrate what the issues are.
And it's like any piece of software, there's some limitations to that.
Right, exactly, okay. So I appreciate you guys coming, appreciate your comments. I don't necessarily, we have easy solutions right here and now, but I know we're aware of them. And obviously there's been some other circumstances like the noise complaints that have surfaced recently as well, so we have to be considerate of that. So, So, but hopefully this will make it a better program going forward. So we appreciate your comments.
Thank you so much for listening.
Yeah.
George, you have a Kathleen Mitchell, has her hand up on.
Okay.
Okay, I have a comment. My hand's been up for 15 minutes.
Sorry, Catherine, okay.
Okay, Kathy Mitchell. First of all, I'd like to reiterate what Betty said about those benches. They really are comfortable. And I've enjoyed sitting on them, but now they aren't there. So I hope they get back soon. My other concern is the fact that over at Waveney House, all the steps leading down to the main lawn have no railing. And last week at the concert, I saw this lady trying to come, she made it down, but boy, I thought she was going to land on her face. We really need railings. I don't even go down them because I had foot surgery and my balance has been totally off ever since. So railings are desperately needed going down all the stairs off of the patio. And I hope that that can be addressed ASAP. Is it Tiger who takes care of that?
Railings off of the patio where?
I didn't understand what somebody asked.
Where are you speaking of?
The patio at Waveney, you know, the bands where the band plays, all the steps,
Oh,
all
all
the
right,
steps.
big
going
veranda.
down.
You say there needs to be railings coming off of.
All the steps going down, the ones that, okay, go up the ramp, you want to go down to the lawn on the right. No railing. Go to the middle of the patio, no railing. Go to the left side of the patio, going down towards the rose garden, no railings. It's dangerous. Bottom line.
Thank you,
I'll
And
mention
I
it.
really hope this
Either
will be
one.
addressed.
Thank you.
yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Okay.
What, does Tiger do this or who's in charge?
I'll mention it to Tiger.
Okay, and have him, I'd like to know progress because it's really a concern.
Okay.
For not only
George?
me, but other people that I know of.
Could you do me a favor, either call the office or send me an email so that I have your contact information for him?
Who's speaking right now? I can't tell because
John
I'm.
Howe.
Oh, John Howe, okay.
And
Okay.
could I
Thank
just,
Uh,
could I just ask, who addresses the traffic issue with the Y? This is Betty again. Is it John Howe? Is it George? Is it the two commissioners for Kiwanis? Is it the YMCA? Who do I contact?
We'll go first, but parking is all police.
Okay.
You know, you can't enforce that, but I'll go down and check it out.
John's gonna go down and check it out, Betty.
So John, how's your contact?
John, I'll be your contact on that.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
John, thank you.
John, yeah, guys, thank you. I know this has been a long meeting. I probably was fine down there.
Big Aggie turned air conditioning off when she left.
I'm gonna rescind my proposal. So, is there any other business to conduct here? Is there a motion to adjourn? Thank you, Sue. Thank you. Can't remember anyone saying, okay, in favor,
Second.
second is Francesca.
Yes.
Sorry, guys, thanks so much, got a lot done tonight,